Misha Haghani is the CEO and founder of Paramount Realty USA. That is the company that's handling the auction of Pope Leo's childhood home in Dolton. It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath house. It has been in the Provost family, the Pope's family, for nearly 50 years. The auction has actually been extended through July 17th, I assume because there's so much interest here. And so we've got some questions for Misha joining us here. Because apparently, Misha, good morning to you.
Good morning, Natalie and Anthony. How are you guys?
Hey, we are great because you're here with us today. Tell us how you guys got involved in the auctioning off of this home.
Well, I would say over 99% of our business is inbound. It's usually from sellers or listing agents, usually the latter. The listing agent contacts us to say, hey, listen, we've got XYZ property, it's unique, it's special, it's difficult to value, or for whatever reason, they think it makes sense for an auction, and so they usually reach out to us. We were connected with this broker within a couple of days of them learning and the world learning that this home is the childhood home of the new Pope. And it was a fairly easy conversation because the property is unique and it's no longer a single family house. We can get into that in a minute, but that's that.
All right, so Misha, run us through the process from here. We mentioned that bids are being taken till July 17th. How does this all work?
So essentially, our firm is like a marketing firm. Paramount is an auction company, and we specialize in helping sellers and listing agents market and sell property through auction. We have a couple of different auction platforms. This is a sealed bid auction, which means that bidders submit their bids discreetly or separately from other bidders. There are a few steps to participate. Once a buyer falls into our buyer funnel, they review the information online. They can request a tour of the property with the listing agent, and they can review substantive due diligence information that our firm has compiled regarding the property and this unique once in a lifetime, once in a generation opportunity. And then they can go on our website, click certain places, and submit their bid. They could submit their bid price and bid terms, which they are permitted to vary, for the seller to review. And July 17th is the deadline.
Is there a threshold price, like in order to get into the bidding, one has to at least offer this amount?
So in this case, we've set what's called a reserve. That's the threshold. We use reserve price and minimum bid price synonymously. In this case, it's $250,000, but people are welcome to bid whatever they want. Even below that doesn't mean the seller is going to accept it. And of course, the bidding should go up from there. And we've already had bids, of course, well in excess of that $250,000 reserve.
Are you able to disclose? You mentioned this is kind of a closed seal thing. Can you give us a ballpark, or is that not allowed?
Correct and no, meaning correct in the sealed bid process, and no, I'm sorry, I can't reveal what bids have come in yet.
Misha, how do you determine or screen out legit bids from non? You know, if I wanted to bid $100 million, it wouldn't be legit. How do you quality control?
Good old-fashioned proof of funds. We need to see this. We need to see that the cash is in a bank account, or a letter from an accountant, or a securities account. We've had statements from crypto accounts for various auctions provided to us as well. So as long as we can verify the funds are there, then we know we're dealing with a bidder that's capable.
So this is a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom home. It was built in 1949. It's about 1,050 square feet. The lot is just under 5,000 square feet. I assume that whoever purchases it has to keep it residential, right? Because it would have to be rezoned if they were to turn it into like a museum or something for profit.
Yeah, I mean, an owner of real estate can only do with the real estate that which is allowed by local law, by zoning laws. How you just described the property would be relevant, meaning the 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, the lot size, et cetera, that would all be relevant if we were selling a house, just a house. But we're no longer selling a house, and I think that's the unique thing here. We're now selling, yes, physical property, real estate, but it's association with someone who's now extremely, extremely important to billions of people on this planet that we're selling. So A buyer is not, I mean, there could be bidders who bid on this for use as a single family home, in which case, let's say it's worth $200,000 or something to that effect. That's fine. You know, when it comes to single family homes, the way that you value them is through comparables, right? You look at other homes in the neighborhood with similar specs, right? Similar bedroom count, bathroom count, condition, how old is the house, when was it last renovated, lot size, etc. And then you extrapolate from there, and that's how you figure out what a regular home is worth. Paramount's, you know, a huge part of our business is marketing and selling special, unique, and difficult to value properties by auction. The same reason why art, which is so subjective, is sold by auction, why antiques, which my father loves to play with, jewelry, autographed baseball cards, sports memorabilia, why are these things sold by auction? Because they're not easily comparable, or comparable is the right word. They're not easily comparable because there aren't necessarily going to be similar assets available. So you can't value this type of property that way. So this is actually a really unique comparison that I'd like to make. The best way that we can value this property is by comping it not to other single family homes that are in that market, but by comping it to another very, very unique, special, high-profile childhood home, which Paramount has auctioned. And that's the childhood home of President Donald Trump, which we've auctioned a couple of times. And in short, we sold that in January of 2017. We actually auctioned it, as I said, a few times. Our second sale took place 3 days before his inauguration and ended up generating a sale price of $2.14 million.
Wow.
For a house that was worth $950,000 as a regular house. Okay, so we sold it for, let's say, a 225% premium over its typical home value, and that premium that we generated is obviously because somebody who loves Trump was willing to pay more to buy this thing that was so closely associated with Trump. And I call that premium the Trump bump. Okay, that's what I refer to as the delta between the house's value as a regular house and what we ultimately sold it for as the childhood home of the next president of the United States.
All right, so what do you think the Pope bump is going to be?
Yeah, so actually I don't call it the Pope bump. I call that the Pope premium.
The Pope premium.
So we got the Trump bump and the Pope premium.
So what do you think it's going to be?
I would compare it. I'll tell you, I would compare it. I think there are a couple of ways you compare this. Number one, the size of the audience that would buy the childhood home of Trump is maybe, let's say, 100 million or 150 million or something to that effect. You know, I'm just saying like half of the country,
right,
plus a number of people from outside the United States, which we did have global bidding for Trump's childhood home.
Really?
So that's the size of that audience. But the Pope's childhood home, you know, you have like 1.3 billion or 1.4 billion Catholics in the world. The size of the audience is much greater. So that's number one comparison, okay? Number two comparison is not the size of the audience, but the level of devotion or commitment to the property. On the one hand, Trump's followers are largely politically motivated, right? It's a political-based devotion. You know where I'm going with this.
Yes.
With the Pope's childhood home, you're not talking about politics. We're talking about something with far significant meaning and value. It's spiritual, it's religious, it's faith-based. So I think that the level of love that people are willing to give to this property exceeds the level of love or demand. It's really about demand that they would for a politician's home. And the third and final point is the price point. Trump's childhood home was worth $1 million, let's say 950,000, and so that's a bigger number, right? It's a little harder to imagine someone paying 20 million or 10 million or 5 million just to buy. By the way, Trump's childhood home was a 4-bedroom, very, very modest, 2,400 square foot house on a 50 by 100 lot size or 40 by 100 lot size. It was modest. This is a $200,000 home. A high net worth individual, a wealthy person, could easily pay 5 times, 10 times, 20 times just based upon absolute dollars, it's a smaller, more, what's the word? It's easier to digest than $1 million or $2 million. So those are my comparison points between what was, I would say, Trump's childhood home, the most famous home on the planet, maybe after the White House. I would say that the Trump's childhood home is now the most famous childhood home on the planet.
Well, some would say that these homeowners hit the holy grail by
there you
selling.
go.
Talk about this issue of eminent domain, because the city of Dolton, or the village of Dolton, excuse me, expressed interest in taking this over with eminent domain. I would assume the homeowners would get bottom dollar if that were the case.
But they're supposed to get fair market value,
okay,
right?
well, bottom dollar.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
200 grand, let's say, versus millions of dollars that they could get here. But is there a risk that whoever purchases this house could ultimately lose it to the village of Dolton?
Or does the village of Dolton have to join in the bidding?
Any of the above is possible. The laws are the laws, and if the village or other government agency has the right to take through eminent domain or purchase through private party transaction, I'm an attorney, by the way, then they can certainly pursue that approach. To my knowledge, the only things that have happened thus far with respect to eminent domain is we've received one letter from the village attorney, I should say, and we've seen interviews that the village attorney has done with the media, but we haven't yet seen any other steps taken to acquire through eminent domain. So that's all that we've seen so far.
Okay. Can you give us an idea about how many bids you guys have gotten, or is that sealed as well?
It's sealed. We don't typically comment on the number or nature of the bids that we've received.
Okay, so July 17th is everybody's deadline, right?
That's right. That's right. Although it is subject to prior sale, which means we do have bids. People can bid now, and the seller does have the option of accepting a bid now, and a buyer can short circuit the auction process by buying beforehand.
All right, final question before we let you go, Misha. What kind of future do you envision for this property? You mentioned that your firm has experience in these kinds of situations. Do you think it's more likely to end up a private residence, a public site, or something else?
In short, I would say likely end up some sort of public or quasi-public. That means I think either it'll end up, whether it ends up in the hands of the village or some other private person, I think they're going to somehow make it available to the world to come and visit, to pray, to look at, to admire. Listen, we're in the auction business, right? So highest bidder wins, and it's just common sense that the highest bidder for this property is not going to be somebody who's going to buy it and move in. Because if you're an end user, as we call it, and you're willing to pay whatever this is worth as a regular house, let's just round it to around $200,000, the next bidder might pay $300,000 or $500,000 or $1 million to do something special, unique, different with it. There's no way that the end user can compete with that.
All right, Misha.
That's fascinating stuff.
Misha Haghani, CEO and founder of Paramount Realty USA. Thank you, sir, for joining us on Chicago Now.
Keep us posted.
Thank you for having me.
Come back when we have a winner.
With pleasure.
Okay.